I fell on Basra Street.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started. We are on the Abdalat Amud Aleph, Mata Shabbos Parshas Shlach, and the Gemara is talking about Hordis killed, brutally murdered all the Chachamim, but he left Bava ben Buta alive to give him eitzes. But even with Bava ben Buta, he was very, very brutal, very brutal. Because you know what he did there? A Hadir lay Kalila Daili. He wrapped his face around with inverted skin of a porcupine. So all the needles punctured the face, Rahman al-San of Baba Bambuta, and the Krinu La'ene, and poked his eyes out, blinded him. So Baba Bambuta, although Hordis Harasha left him alive, he was blinded. Yoim Echad, one day, Hordis was very concerned that the Chachamim, the Eden, were going to curse him and cause him sorrows. So one day he came, also by Yosef Kamei, he sat in front of Baba Bambuta. Of course, Baba Bambuta couldn't see him. Amar, and he told him, Chazin Mar Hai Abdabisha my Kobit. You see what this tyrant, this horrible slave Hordis is doing? So Baba Bambuta answered, Amar Lei, my evidently, what exactly would you like me to do about it? Amar Lei, so the fellow told him, Nilachimar, why don't you curse him? Amar Lei, Baba Bambuta told this unknown person, I can't. Ksiv Gam Bimadacha, even in your thoughts, Melech al Takala, one should not curse a king. Amar Lai, so Baba Muta told him, so Hordis told him, Hi love Melechu. This is not a king, he's just a low life. Amar Lai, so Baba Muta says, even if he's a regular wealthy man. Uksiv, the pasuk continues on and says, Uvechedre mishkavcha al Takal even in the privacy of your bedroom, you should never curse a rich man. And even if you want to claim that he's a nasi, loyal a nasi, uksiv nasi bam chaloy sar. One's not allowed to curse a nasi. Amar lay. So Hordis answered, when are you not allowed to curse? And nasi, if he's oisa ma'isa amcha, behaves like a proper yid. The high level oisa ma'isa amcha, this Hordis is definitely not behaving properly. So curse him. Amar lay Baba and Buddha answered, I can't. Mistafina minay, I'm afraid of him. Amar lay. So Hordis said, Leka inish the azul, the lamale. Who is going to hear us? Who's going to tell him? The navat yasivna, just you and me here. Amar lay, he said, that's still too dangerous. Ksivki oif hashemayim yoilich esakoil ubal kinafayim yagid over. A little birdie's going to tell him it's too dangerous. So when Hordis saw that the Chachma Yisrael follow the Torah, and the Torah guides them not to ever curse someone like him, he realized, hey, I didn't have to kill them because they would have never cursed me. And he said, Anahu, I am Hordis. Ihavoi Yodano. There's a higher Rabbanon Kulahai. If I would have known that the Rabbanon would never have cursed me, Loi Havakatil Nalu. I never would have killed them. Oy vey, did I mess up now? What am I going to do? My Takandi the Hugaber. What possible remedy can you offer to me to bail myself out from the horrible injustice that I committed? Amar lay, so Baba ben Buta answered, Hu kava olam, you extinguish Torah, which is the light of the world, the mitzvah Torah, or the way to rectify that is Yelech v'yasoik v'oiroi shalom. Be oitik in what lights up the world, which is the base of Mikdash. Tichsiv and Haru Elo of Kol HaGoyim, all of the Goyim are going to come to shep light, to draw light from the base of Mikdash. Igad Amri Hachi Amrli. This is what he said. Who sima ina shalom? You blinded the Talmidei Chachamim, not you wiped the Torah, but you blinded the Talmidei Chachamim, so you destroyed the Talmidei Chachamim. Which is actually in the parts that we learned today, referring to the Einay is referring to the Dayanim. You killed the Dayanim, therefore you need to create more Einayim Shal Torah. Yelech v'yisasek be'einay shaloylam with the eye of the world. T'chsev hineni mechalel es mikdashi ga'oy nuschem. I mean mechalel is English. Nuschem, your pride machmad einech. The thirst of your eyes, the lust of your eyes. So you see that the Beis Hamikdash represents the eyes of the people. Amr Lei, Hurda says, I'm very afraid to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. Mistafina machlusa. You know what head office in Rome is going to do to me? I'm terrified of Rome. Zok to Gemara, Amr Lei. So Bava and Buta gave him the political answer to this problem. It's always easier to beg forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. So he said, Shadar Shlicha v'lezel shata. Send the shliach to Rome. It's going to take him 1 year of travel. He's going to get there. He's going to have to work the political echelon, to lobby, to get your permission. And he'll spend a year there. And then it'll take him a year to get back. So you have 3 years to play with. You can take down the first primitive version of the second Beis Hamikdash. You'll build a beautiful edifice. The Horde just liked that Eitzah. Avarachi, he actually did that. So what did Rome answer? If you have not yet taken down the old Beis Hamikdash, Al Tister, don't do it. If you already did, Al Tivni, don't build it up. And if you already did everything and you're asking us after the fact, Avdi Bisha, you bad Eved, Basar the Avdin Mismalchin, you only ask permission after you've already acted. Im Zainachalach, you think you're a big knacker because you're powerful and you have weapons and you can bully your way around. Sifrach, your Shtar Yuchsin, Khan. We have your Shtar Yuchsin, and we know you're a proste Eved. So don't push us around. Loiraka, you're not a king. V'loi baraka, and you're not the son of a king. Hordis Abda Klanya Misal. Hordis is an Eved who broke free and now is trying to play king. So you see that even in Rome, they held him to be a lowlife. Frank the Gemara, my Raka. It says you're not a Raka and you're not a Bara. So the Gemara Raka is Machusa. It means you have no royal blood. Where do you see that it's referring to king? Because it says in the pasuk, Anoichi Hayom Rach u'Moshiach Melech. I believe this David said, I'm Rach u'Moshiach Melech. This was he Rach. Means he became king. The voice of Mehacha, Vayukar Lefanav, they called Yosef Avreich. So the Reich is the Melech, is the royalty. Omri, the Velt says about Hordis, Mishalei Ra, Binyan Hordis, whoever didn't see the beautiful Beis Hamikdash that Hordis built, Leira Binyan Noam Yom. He never ever saw such a beautiful building. So Aitana, what did Bava and Buddha tell him? We're going to build a Beis Hamikdash, and you're going to pay for it. That's what he told them. We're building the Beis Hamikdash. We're building the wall. We're building all the walls, and you're paying for it. And that's exactly what happened. So Zok to Gemara, B'mai Banya. You're talking about such a beautiful edifice. Give us some of its architectural qualities. Share with us the description of this beautiful building. Omer Rabba ba'abnei shisha, with green marble, umarmura, and white marble. Igadami ba'abnei kuchla, with blue marble, shisha, green marble, umarmura, and white marble. So it was a three-tone marble. It was something special. And the way he built it was apik sofa v'ayel. Each row of bricks, one was recessed, one stuck out. One was recessed, one stuck out. And why did he build it that way? I guess it's the cement sticks to it better. I'm not sure how. I'm not a bricklayer, but it works better. It gives it a better structure, better rigidity. Sovar, now we know Hordus was also an Ingerish. How do you know? Because it says Marmara, the Chamamarish Gewein. He wanted to make it Ingerish. So Sovar L'Mashiv, he wanted a gold plate, the whole Beis Hamikdash. Like a good Hungarian. Amalei Rabbanon, Shavke, leave it, it's good enough. The Haki Shaper Tfei, this design, the multi-layered, multicolored marble, is much more beautiful. The Mechsi, Ki Idvisa, the Yama, it looks like the waves of a sea. And Rashi says when you look at it from a distance, it would almost look like you were looking through a translucent glass, a translucent lens. So you didn't see it clearly, it looked like it was moving. It actually looked like the rolling waves of a beautiful sea. Frag the Gemara, Ubaba ben Buta, Hechi Avarach. How did Bava ben Buta give an Eitzah to Hordes HaRasha to save his skin? Let him go down. Let him go straight to hell. He's a Russian Marusha. He tortured and killed Eden. That's what you do. You help him out. Daniel got an onish for this. Nebuchadnezzar did Aveir, so he had a dream, and the dream said that he was going to be terribly cursed. What was going to happen to him? He was going to become a werewolf. He would lose his identity as a human, and he would think he's an animal, and he would go live with the chayes and eat food from the jungle and act like a regular chaye. And in fact, that's what happened to him. He was from the plus of the Pride Week. He identified himself as a furry. Shenemar Lahen Malka Malki Yashbrelech. Daniel said, if my Eitzah is good for you, V'chateach b'tzedakah proy, you should redeem your Averis with tzedakah. V'visicha b'mechen anyon hein tahava. And you should redeem yourself from the oinchim by being very nice and very good and very generous with aniyim. And that will be then to have an akal shalvasik. It'll extend the period of time where you were not yet inflicted with this terrible punishment. So it's not going to pot you. The best I can give you is advice to delay the inevitable. This oinish. Uksiv, and it says in the pasuk later, all of those curses happened to him. He became like a regular chayiv for years. Uksiv, but it does say, but it was delayed for 12 months. Daniel was punished, and we're going to soon see how he was punished. So, why would Bava ben Buta do something like this? He wasn't, the Nebuchadnezzar was a guy, but Horus was an Eved Kanani. He has a chiv and some mitzvahs. So maybe since he has a chiv and mitzvahs, he has shaykhs to Yiddishkeit. Maybe you do have to help him get out of his Averis. He didn't deserve to be helped at all, but shiny Beis HaMikdash, the loy malchus loy mispeni. Building a building like the Beis HaMikdash, such a massive undertaking, without the malchus participating, it would have been impossible to do. So literally, Bava ben Buta had to hold his nose and ask for this as much and as painful as it was, but that's the only way he saw to get the Beis HaMikdash built. Frank the Gemara, Vidoniel minolon de Iyamish. How do we know that Daniel got an amish? If it's because it says in the pasuk in the Megillah, Vatikra Esther lahasach. Esther called Hasach, and that was Daniel. V'yomer Rav Hasach said Daniel. So where do you see the onish? It's good according to the Madam who holds that they cut him down from his position, and he lost his position. That makes sense. And the Mefarshim tell us that he used to be the advisor, the chief of staff for the entire Malchus, and he got cut down. Now he was only for Achashverosh. Elalaman de Omar. Shekol divrei malchus nechtach al piv. If you learn pshat nasach, is that anything that happened in the malchus went through Daniel, so we don't see any pasuk that indicates that Daniel was punished. Michael Meimar, where is there a punishment mentioned to Daniel? And for the Gemara, they said you leguiva daryavaso. We know Daniel was thrown into a lion's den. That was his punishment for helping Nebuchadnezzar. Now that we finished the Agadah, we got to snap out of it and get back to the halachis and the lumbus of Bava Basra. So the Mishnah says, how do you build a wall? Bigger, smaller, thicker, thinner, this block, that block, this configuration, that configuration. Kaminik Hamadina. You always do it Kaminik Hamadina. What other options are there that the Mishnah didn't directly list? There are some places where they don't even require a block wall. And what they would do is they would take a series of posts and put them equally spaced in the ground, and then weave back and forth horizontally between them, either vines or lulav branches or reeds, and that's what formed the fence. I guess it was their version of what we would call a chain link fence. Minimalistic. Lefichach, the Mishnah says, since we know that the wall is equally contributed to by each of the two neighbors, if the wall should collapse at any time, we know that the land underneath the wall is 50% to each of the neighbors, as well as the debris. Do I need a Mishnah to tell me that if two people build a wall together and they contribute equally, that if it falls, everything is split up equally? So it's speaking where all of the bricks fell into one person's rishus. So he's a muhsik. So maybe he could say it was all mine. Inami, the peninu chad l'shusa didei, it fell all over the place. But one of the two partners gathered up all the bricks and piled them up nicely in his rishus. So now he's a muhsik. We know for a fact that it's 50-50, and no matter who's the muhsik, it's not a shaila, they split it evenly. Then the Mishnah goes on and says, V'chein begina mokem shenahagu ligdar mechayv. Same thing would be in a garden. It's a place where the minig is to make a wall, and if you remember, we learned either it's a ride that Hezek Shmei Hezek, or it's because in the Gina it's worse because of the Ayin Hara. You're mechayvim to build a wall. If you analyze the Mishnah, you're going to see there's a stira minayube. Because Amrit, the Mishnah first says, V'chein begina, if it's a makam shenahagu ligdar mechayvim. In a gina, if it happens to be a place where the minig is that everybody creates a barrier between the two ginos, then one neighbor can force the other neighbor to build a wall. Hastama. What if there was no meforshim minig? There was no minig. It's mashma ein mechayvim. I wouldn't be able to force my neighbor. I can only force my neighbor if there's a distinct minig there. Okay, let's look at the next case in the Mishnah. Avol bika. What about out there in the fields, in the valley? There, if it's a mokim shenagu shaloi ligdar, if it's a place where there's a meforshim minig, that you don't put up walls, then in mechayvim. So we can be medayik again. Hastama mechayvim. If you're in the bika and there's no distinct minig, you would be able to be mechayiv your partner. Frank the Gemara, think about this. Hashta stam gina amrit loy. We just said stam gina without a minig, you would say, I can't force you to build a wall. Stam bika, which is even less of a reason to make a wall. Miboya, surely you shouldn't be able to force your partner to put up a wall. Yet the diak from the sefer is that stam bika you would be able to force. Amar Abai is Dr. Abai Halchikam. This is how you read the Brisa, the Mishnah. The chain stam gina, so to a stam gina, you're also mechuyev to build a wall. However, uvamakam shehanu ligder bebika mechayv. In a bika, when are you chayiv to build a wall? Not stam, only if there was a meforshim minig to make the wall. Amalei Rava said that cannot be pshat in the Mishnah because in Cain, my apple, the Mishnah says gina v'chein begina makam shenagu ligder mechayv noisai. Avol bikaloi. So since there's an avol, it clearly is telling us that everything before the avol is not talking about a bika. So you cannot learn the words of mokam shenahagal ligder mechayv noisai is referring to the bika because there's a word avol there. This is how you read it. The chain stam gina is kim mokam shenahagal ligder dam. Stam gina, I can mechayv my neighbor to make a wall, just as if there was a meforshim. Avol stam bika, but if it was a stam bika, that you treat k'mokam shaloi nagu dami, and therefore unless you know the farish that there is a minig to make a wall even in the bika. Ella, what does the Mishnah say? What if it's in the bika where I cannot force my neighbor to make a wall, but I want a wall? Ella imratza, if you bedavka on a wall, konyish l'sarch shaloi. You'll have to build a complete wall on your property. Uvayin, you build it. Now, what if it falls down? We don't want someone to say that's 50-50. So you have to put some type of symbol on the wall to indicate that it's built completely in my property, completely from my supplies. Exactly how do you make this indication. Amrapuna levar. The top row of bricks should protrude out into your neighbor. So the whole wall is built flush, and the top brick sticks out a little bit, but not towards your side, towards his side. Why did you make it stick out on your side? So Gemara, because then Ovid Chavri Nami Milabar, your friend will do the same thing. He'll make it stick out on his side. V'yomar Didi V'dideu, and then he'll claim it belongs to both of us. Frank Gemara, Ihaki Hashtanami, even if you make it stick out on his side, guy is like Chavri. He'll chisel off that brick that's sticking out. V'amar, and he'll claim Didi V'dideu. Zok Gemara, that wouldn't be an option for him. Because Gizuza made the idea. If he tried chiseling off that part of the brick that protruded to his side, everyone could see the brick was chiseled. So they'll know that he's a con artist. That in fact, originally it stuck out on his side because his neighbor is the one who built the entire wall. He wanted to make it look otherwise. He chiseled it off. But we could see that he cannot fool us. Zog to Gemara. Ikadami, there are those who say, Amar Avuna, exactly the opposite. You know on what side your brick sticks out? On your side. Frank Gemara, why did you make the brick stick out on the other side? Because guys like Chavri, the neighbor's going to chisel it off. The Amar will claim Didi Vidideu, but on your side he can't chisel it off. But Frank Gemara, Ihaki, Hashtanami, live like Chavri. He could cement on a layer of brick on his side. And then they'll claim again, the Amar Didi Vididehu. Tomorrow the Pufa made the idea. You can tell what's the original brickwork and what's an add-on brickwork. But he can't fool you because we would see he added on later. Frankly, Gemara, how could you say that you make it stick out on your side? The Mishnah uses a lotion of mibechutz. It says you make a chazos mibechutz, and mibechutz means on his side, not on your side. The Gemara kasha, no, it's a kasha, but it's not something that we're considering. Rabbi Yochanan said you don't even have to make the brick stick out. You could do something much simpler. You could just create a thicker layer of plaster, where the previous Amoraim said you make it stick out by making the brick stick out. You just put a thicker layer of plaster, and that's how it will stick out. So let's turn out to Amud Beis. Nishaya ba'amsa milavar. You smear extra cement on the top layer, pointing towards the other property, and that's the sign. For Gemara, the same question, make it on your side. So Gemara, then your friend will do the same. And the Omar will claim Didi Vididehu. For Gemara, Ihachi Hashtanami, the couple of Chavri, he'll chisel off the cement that you have sticking out on his side. The Omar will claim Didi Vididehu. So Gemara, Kilufa Medeyadia. You could tell if there was cement there and it was chiseled off. So this is all a good simon. If you're dealing with a block concrete wall, you could do this. But what about hutza? What if it's just like a chain link fence? So you have vertical members, and then you have the lulav going back and forth in between them. How are you going to make a sign as to which side made that? Zok Gemara, Amar Rab Nachman, Silufe Yeriche Milabar. What you would do is there's two pshatim in Rashi. One is the horizontal members. You're taking a long reed. You're going in and out, in and out. But eventually, you have to add another reed because you ran out of reed. So that point, you make sure it sticks out towards the other side. And if all those points of all the reeds stick out towards the other side, that'll be the indication that you're the one who made it. That's one picture. The other picture is the vertical members you point towards your neighbor. So, Frank the Gemara, Ovid Nami. So, why did you point it to the inside? Because Ovid Nami Chavri Milabar. Your Chaver will also make them pointing to his side. And he'll claim it's borrowed. Frank the Gemara, Ihaki Hashto Nami Gayis V'Shadilai. if there's anything sticking out of his property, he'll cut it off and throw it out so that he can say there's nothing sticking out by me. And therefore, this is a 50-50 wall. Dr. Gemara, Dr. Gemara, Mishrik Lei Tina. You're right. When the points stick out, you have to smear those that edges of those reeds with cement. So you can't just cut it off. Frag the Gemara, Hashanami, Asi Chabre, the Kalaf Le Kilufa. So he'll chisel those off. He'll chisel off the cement. So Gemara, once again, made the idea. When you chisel cement, it'll be noticeable. Abai said you have good questions. It's very difficult to build into the wall something that'll indicate for perpetuity who built that wall. So you know what you have to do? Abai Mahuta less at the kanta elabishtar. You'll need a star. When you build a wall, you'll have to get to aid him that will witness that you built it on your property with your supplies, sign the star, and then you'll have it if there's ever a question of who this wall belongs to. What if both neighbors agree to build a wall?
And what happens if you lose the star?
Then he's in trouble. Then he's in trouble. As a matter of fact, Tosfos even discusses some of the other Rishonim discuss what if one guy, if you don't have a star, the other guy could say, it's my wall and I lost my star. Because especially if it fell into his karka, he's a muksa. So that would be a big problem. If he lost his star, he would be in big trouble. Okay. Zok to Gemara. If both parties agreed to make a wall, then you build it dead center, they each contribute equally, and the Mishnah says, and they each make a sign on their side to show that it belongs to both. So we had Shver, when we do the Mishnah, let nobody make a sign, and then we'll know it belongs to both of them. So Amar Lei Rava Mikparzika L'Rabashi. This is the kasha that he asked. Lo yasu loize veloize. Neither side should make any sign, and then they'll know it belongs to both of them. Amar Lei, you're right. Latricha. But what happened was one of them was a crook. The Kaddim of Chad Minayu ve'avadi day. They built it evenly, and then one guy was a crook, so he made the sign to show that he built it because he wanted to rip off his neighbor. The Eloi Avad Chabre, if his friend doesn't make the same symbol, Omar Dideyu, he'll say it's his. Frank the Gemara, the Mishnah tells us halacha. It doesn't tell us, Eitzes Toivus, how to prevent fraud. Frank the Gemara, V'tana, Takanta, L'ramai, Kamash, Malon, the Tana is dealing with normal people. The Tana is not giving you fraud prevention advice. So why would the Tana mention such a thing, such a modern case? Because we're talking about a guy who wanted to rip off his neighbor. Zok the Gemara Amalei. So he answered back. So Rava from Bazika asked the kasha, neither one should have it. Rabashi said it's also Ramai. So Rava asked Rabashi, what are you talking about? The Reisha, in the Reisha, we're only having one guy make the sign because he built it on his property. Lat the kantal Ramayu. There's also the kantal Ramay. We're afraid that sometime in the future his neighbor is going to deny that he built the wall, so he has to also do it to avoid fraud. Now Rabbi Kiva asks, not over here, but he asks from the Mishnah, Lav Davke. Maybe in the ratio you know why you need it. Not because of a Ramay. It's because we're afraid the wall will fall down in 50 years where both neighbors are already not alive and the children won't even know. And maybe that's what it's for. But he doesn't answer the kasha. But I'll call upon him. He said, Amalek, Bishlam Reisha. In the case of the Reisha, we're making it on one side, Tanadina. The Mishnah has to discuss this case because the Mishnah has to tell us that if your neighbor doesn't want to build a wall and you can't force him, you have to build a wall totally on your side. Now, once it tells us that Allah, Mushumdina also the kanta. Mushumdina tana the kanta. And therefore, it's for your how you should build this to avoid fraud. Ela Seifa, Dina Katani, is there a din? Does the Tani need to tell me a din over here that if we both agree to make it, then we build it in the middle? We don't need that. We know that Allah already. The Katani Kakanta, is there a din that prompted the Tana to talk about this? And therefore, he will elaborate and talk about the Kantal Ramai? No. So he shouldn't have said anything. Amar Ravina. So Ravina said, you know what the issue was? Hacha b'hutzi askina. You know what type of wall we're talking about in the Seifa? We're talking about a wall of hutzi. And it's telling us that with a wall of hutzi, you can also make these signs to show that the wall belongs to you or to him or to both of you. The Omar Hutza less like the contact of Bishtora. If you don't learn like a Baye, and you learn that you could make a sign on a Hutza fence, maybe that's what the Tanakh is telling us. It tells specifically addressing a Hutza fence that you could make a takana in it to show who built it. So that's very good. How you would learn Pshat of the Mishnah if you don't hold like a Baye. But if you hold like a Baye, we're stuck. Is the Tanakh going to tell us something just to avoid fraud? Tosha says that's what Abaye will be forced to say. Will be forced to say that Abaye holds it is normal for a Tana to just discuss fraud prevention. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we finished this Gemara, and now we're up to a new Mishnah. What if Reuben had a property, and Shimon had three properties, one on each of the three sides of Shimon? The Gadar as Rishon. One of the three properties that Shimon had, he made a wall all the way around it. Now, one side of that wall is actually a wall for Reuven as well, because that's the border that he shares with Reuven. Then there's a Shnia, and then there's a Shlishis. So now he basically made three walls, three sides of Reuven's property. He got a free wall for. Ein mechayev noisai. You're not mechayev Shimon, the guy in the middle, to pay for the three walls. Now, the Tanakama doesn't discuss what would happen if there was a fourth wall. Pashtus, you should be able to be medayik that if there was a fourth wall, so now the guy in the middle is protected on all four sides. So he has benefit from this wall, now he would pay. That's how you could be medayik, but that doesn't say that in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yosy says, Im Amad the Gadar Seravias, if he got up and closed in the fourth side, and there's a shayla in the Gemara, we're going to see if that means the Makif, the guy who did the first three, did the fourth as well, or if the Nikaf did it, which means he's clearly showing that he wants these walls. But if one of those things happens, Melgal didn't love us a koil, now he's got to pay for it. At least his fair share of it. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Halacha ki Rabbi Yosy, the halacha is like Rabbi Yosy, the Amar in Amad the Gadar Servius, Melgal didn't love us a Loishna Amad Nikaf, Loishna Amad Makif. So now we have some clarity. It doesn't matter if the fourth side got closed in, no matter who closed it in, the nikaf, the guy in the middle, is liable to pay half of all four walls. Itmar we had a machlokes. When I, as the guy in the middle, am forced to pay for half of your wall, what do I have to pay? What if I could have made a chain link fence, but this guy built a big, beautiful stone wall, which is much more expensive than a chain link fence? Whatever that wall was built, no matter how expensive it is, we force the guy in the middle to pay 50% of a very expensive wall. However, no. I could say, yeah, okay, I have to chip him for a wall, but I would have never agreed to such an expensive wall. I'll pay half of a cheap wall of what I would have bought. Now we're going to go to our Mishnah to analyze it better. The Gadar Rishono, there's a Shnia, there's a Shlishis. Ein mechayev noisa. You're not mechayev the guy in the middle to contribute. And now we make the diak. Haravias, if the neighbor built four walls all the way around this guy's property, then mechayev noisa. It's mashma that the Tanakama would be mechayev the fellow in the middle to pay. Let's look at what Rabbi Yosy says. Seems to me that Rabbi Yosy says exactly the same thing. Rabbi Yosy, Imam the Gadar Servius, Milgal is a coil. So what is the machlokes between the Tanakam and Rabbi Yosy? The Shtevel Rafuna, the Amar Koil, if he Masha Gadar Ba, Bishlem Akod Rafuna will help. That what was Rabbi Yosy being Mechai? He was being Mechai, the guy in the middle, to pay 50% of whatever the guy around paid for the fence, no matter how expensive the fence it was. So then you could say, that's the chiluk. Tanakama savar hakoy lefi the mekanim bezoil. We make a dig that if the fourth side was covered, I have to chip in. But he doesn't say how much I have to chip in. I have to chip in half of what a modest fence would cost. But I don't have to pay 50% of your elaborate, expensive wall. Rabbi Yosy savar hakoil lefi mashagodar. Because the lashon of Rabbi Yosy was magal love as hakoil, everything, not just the bare minimum, but whatever the fellow paid for the wall, the guy in the middle has to now pay half. So that makes perfect sense. That would be the machlokes. El Lechia Baraf, who learns even in Rabbi Yosy that you only have to pay half of the bare minimum. What will be the nafkamina? What will be the machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yosy? Either mekanim bezoil like hayoyvlei, if the Tanakama isn't even going to be mechayev, the guy in the middle, to pay for a cheap wall, my kayoyvlei, what does he have to pay? And he has to pay something because we made a deal. If he enclosed the fourth door, there would be a payment. What would the payment be? Zok to Gemara, Ibayis Ema Agar Nitira Ika Beinayu. You could say that you know what the nafkamina is. The Tanakama would hold, I'm going to pay for a wall. I would have to pay a much lower cost to hire somebody temporarily to watch my field. Tanakama Savar, Agar Nitira in the Mekanim Bezoyalud, I have to pay the bare minimum for a watchman. If the Yosy Savar, no, you got to pay half of at least a modest wall to make Mekanim Bezoyal. So that's one shot in the machlokes, Rabbi Yosy and the Tanakama. So far we have two shots in the machlokes. We have one shot as the machlokes is whether or not you have to pay the full value of the fence, like Rabbi Yosy, or just the Mekanim Bezoyal. That was the first shot. Second shot was even Rabbi Yosy holds only the Mekanim Bezoyal, and the Tanakama holds you got to pay for a watchman. The third shot is that we're going to learn now. The question is whether or not this fellow has to pay for the first two walls or only for the fourth wall. Tanakama Savar reveals who the yoyevle. Because you made a deal. If the makif does 1, 2, or 3, he doesn't have to pay. And when how 4 you have to pay, but yes, you have to pay for 4. But you don't got to pay for all of the first 3. You only got to pay for the fourth. What's the logic behind it? So Rashi, because as each wall was built, they would go to the entire. I mean, it didn't actually go, but it would be kapastant that he doesn't have to pay. So after the first 3 walls were built, it was kapastant he doesn't have to pay. Now he's putter. We can't go back to that. Fourth wall, since he's completely enclosed, and now he's benefiting, for the fourth wall, we'll make him pay. That will be the sheet of the Tanakh. But Rabbi Yosy say Magal didn't love us a coil. Rabbi Yosy said, "We're trying to shnei shlishus nami yoivle." The nikaf, the guy in the middle, would have to pay for all 4 walls. So that was a third shot. Now we're going to have a fourth shot. Up until this point, we didn't make a distinction between who built the fourth wall, the original makiv or now the guy in the middle. Now we're going to make that distinction. The Tanakama Soiver, time of the Almad Nikaf, the Megalganos Akol. You only make the guy in the middle pay everything if he himself made the fourth wall. Because if he himself made the fourth wall, it's declaring basically that he wants these walls. And that's why he's chayiv. But if the makif enclosed the fourth wall, even though now the nikaf is benefiting, but who said he wants it? And therefore, he would only have to pay for the fourth, he wouldn't have to pay for the first 3. Either way, in Amad Gadar, if it was closed in the fourth wall, Megalgun Alav as a coil, you've got to pay for all 4 walls. In all these 4 pshatim so far, it seems that Rabbi Yosy puts more of a liability on the guy in the middle to pay. This last pshat that we're about to learn is going to actually have the opposite approach, where Rabbi Yosy is mekel. And let's see this last lashon. However, the way it works out is different. Tanakama Savar im Goder Makif Esaravias Nami Yovel. If the Makif did it, then he has to pay. Kolshikain if the Nikov did it, because if the Nikov did it, he's clearly showing that he wanted it. If Yosy Savar Dafka im Omad Nikaf v'Goder Servius. If the Makav did it, the guy in the middle would not be chayiv to pay. He's only chayiv to pay if he himself did it, because then he's showing that he wants it. Mamad Nikaf v'Goder Servius, who the Yavlei, the Gali died to the Nikolai because he's showing he wants it because he closed in the fourth wall. Avalim Goder Makiv. But if the Makiv did the fourth wall as well, Lo Yoiv Le Midi, he won't have to give him anything at all. And the way you see it in the Lashon HaMishnah is as follows. But if the Makiv himself did the fourth, you're Mechayiv. So that's where you see the Tanakam is Mechayiv, even if it was the Makiv who did the fourth side. But look at the Yosy's wording. Yosy Omer im Omad v'Godar. If it was referring to the Makiv, Rabbi Yosy should have said im Godar Sheravius, referring to the Makiv. Im Omad v'Godar makes it sound like somebody who wasn't involved in the activity of building walls, and now he first woke up to start making a wall. Who is that talking about? It has to be talking about the Nikev. Then Megalgan Lovasakol. But if the Makiv did it, it doesn't show anything at all, and therefore the Nikev would not have to pay one red cent. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we were zoicha to finish Daf Dalet in Basra, and Be'ez Hashem Yisparach tomorrow at 7 and at 9, we're going to learn Daf Hey. A good tavach, everybody. A good bench tavach. A mazel tavach.